Good morning and welcome to Hometown Heroes. Today we have a special guest, and Liberty Phillips was on Hometown Heroes back in May. And when we last saw her on Hometown Heroes, she had her jump boots on and she was on her way to the airport to go to Normandy for the anniversary of the 79th anniversary, I believe. And let's pick up where we left off. Mary, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm kind of frazzled a little bit. You know, yesterday was a long day, but it
Yeah,
was a good day.
it
But
was. Don kept asking, "Where's Sherry? Where's Sherry?" And finally, at the end of the event, he got to get a hug, so he was pretty happy.
he's
You know,
always
he just
happy.
loves. Yeah, he just
He's
loves to go
always
out there
happy
and visit. Yeah,
when he gets a hug, doesn't he?
he does, especially if it's from a pretty woman.
Yes. So yesterday we were at a golf tournament over at Brookhaven Country Club in Farmers Branch. It was tee off for troops, and they were having a benefit for Sons of the Flag. Don came over there, and he pulled double duty because he sang the national anthem and he sang "God Bless America." So it was a real treat, and it was a good day, and I
Yeah,
think
and we got to
they
see some great friends too. The
absolutely,
Burgesses were there, and I know that that's a when they lay that rose at the battlefield cross. I know how emotional that is for them,
absolutely,
but boy, it's so important not to let them ever think that their son's service and sacrifice has ever been forgotten.
absolutely. And then Terry and Roy Patterson, I think, were there too, and they laid a rose for their son. Liberty, the last time that we saw you, this is what we saw right here as you were going to Normandy. So tell us what happened. You went over there.
Oh, it's amazing. Wow, that was, let's see, May, and now it's September. So the summer's gone by. Normandy was amazing. I've every time I've been over there, it's been with vets or with kids or with something. So this is kind of the first time I was there
This was
just
just a
to.
Liberty trip, right?
Oh, well, there was still I did work stuff over there too, but this was primarily to do a jump. And it was it was how do we even begin to describe it? So, well, okay, I'll kind of start at the beginning.
Okay.
Um, the were supposed to have a jump on the second, I believe, in Carrington, and I was a last minute throw on, so I was kind of a strap hanger, so we weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. And the winds were very, very dramatic all week long. So we had, I think there was 3 jumps, 4 jumps that we were supposed to do, and then they kept getting called for the winds. And when I used to be a bystander watching this, I never understood that concept that you can't jump in high winds. I was like, oh, why don't they just let them out? They got parachutes. They're good. No, 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 no. No, it doesn't work like that. So for like 4 days leading up to the day we actually got the jump in, it was hours and hours in full gear with a harness on at the Cherbourg airport, waiting any moment to get on the plane and go fly. And it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. And then the jump finally happened, and it was the greatest. It was the greatest ever.
Where did you land?
So we landed the drop zone we landed was in Amfreville, which is actually it's out of it's about, I want to say it's about 11 minutes from Saint Mary Glisse, and it's the actual drop zone where General Gavin of the 82nd Airborne landed in Normandy. So I'll backtrack track a little bit because I kind of just jumped right in without a lot of context. So in Normandy, every year the jump teams come over, the military comes over, they have a lot of really big jumps. And the very exciting jump is Lafayette Day, and it's at the Lafayette drop zone. Thousands and thousands of people go up. I think for the 75th anniversary, there was like 30,000 people came out to watch the jump. The
My
Army brings all their
goodness.
C-130s. It's like the highlight of the whole week. And so we'd had a couple of canceled jumps leading up to that. We were saying we were going to get our bus wings from jumping off the back of a bus. And so Lafayette Day came. We kitted up. We're in Cherbourg at the airport. Get on the plane, fly over to Lafayette, and then we just keep flying and circling and circling. And we're waiting for the winds to go down. And because it was just about at our level. And then they say, stand up and hook up. So we're standing there hooking up. And for 45 minutes, they give us the 30-second notice, like 30 seconds. And we're ready to walk out. And we all decided after it was the longest 30 seconds of our life, because about 45 minutes later, they called it and we had to go back to Cherbourg, and someone in my plane was throwing up. I know in the C-130s, everyone was throwing up. And because apparently the pilots decided, hey, if we're not going to be getting rid of our jumpers, we'll just show off for the crowd a little bit. So the board troopers kind of lost it at their lunch. So that was June 4. Yeah, I think that was June 4. June 5th, we finally get our jump in. And so this anticipation, 4 or 5 days just wearing a 60-pound parachute is just beginning to get really tiring. And we're just, you learn how to nap in a parachute really well. But the jump happened, and it was evening. It was June 5th. At sunset on General Gavin's drop zone. It was the most beautiful jump. It was the most beautiful jump ever. So,
did you have a GoPro? Did you have a GoPro camera or anything like that?
No, a lot of the guys did. I haven't ever jumped with a GoPro. I want to, but I also feel like it would be a little distraction for me at this point. I still claim novice status. I'm only at 25 jumps, so I've claimed novice status for a while. But one of the guys landed in a creek. Ooh. So, he had his GoPro on, and it was an amazing view. Like he gets out, you look at the canopy, he checks everything, he steers, and then you see him fly straight through these trees in the creek, and he got his water landing. It was amazing.
You get a special badge for that?
We need to give like a special baptism badge for that. But it was beautiful. So we had 4 or 5 lifts. We dropped about 100 jumpers, and I can describe the feeling, but it's also very hard to, because you're landing, and I've thought about this my entire life. I've dreamed about this day for years and years, getting to jump in Normandy. And then it happens, and it's the day before. So it's hours before the anniversary, 79 years and 5 hours before the paratroopers dropped, and you're landing at the exact location. I mean, I get chills thinking about it now, but you're landing exactly where they were. Now, there's a few different other hazards. We got like electrical wires now that weren't there, and some cows that weren't there. I thought it would be great to like steer for the cows, land next to them, milk them,
or land on top of one of them.
Yeah. But it's a spectacular. People call jumping, because we do it in World War II gear, they're like, oh, you're reenactors. But the minute you exit the plane, you're not a reenactor. This is like real life. This is a real life situation. And so, yeah, when we all landed, we all just kind of lay back in the grass and cheered, because it was days of expecting this to happen. And then we landed, and it's the anniversary of D-Day. And, the veterans are in town, and we've been talking with them all week, and we've been doing all the beaches and the cemeteries and everything. And then you land. So it's amazing.
You got to do some of that kind of stuff, some of the tourist stuff, even while you were waiting, or did they just cancel it?
No, we... afterwards, I got to see a couple of spots, but for the most part, everybody was like, "How was your time in France?" I was like, "I spent most of the time at the airport in Cherbourg with a parachute on," but it was. I mean, that was worth it. It because every day you're expecting we're going to jump, so you got to be ready at a moment's notice. Mm. So I just kind of walked around with my parachute kit bag on my back, and I kept running into bless his heart, General Leneve, who's commander of the 82nd Airborne. And he was on one of the planes where everybody got a little pukey. So I ran into him afterwards, after I made my jump. I actually yelled at him across the street. I was like, "Hey, General, we made our jump. Sorry you didn't get to." And then I was like, "Oh, I'm just yelling at General Leneve." And I ran into him last month again at an event. And his wife comes up to me and she goes, "I know you. You're the girl who got the jump in Normandy and we didn't." I was like, "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry I yelled at y'all." So
Yeah, there's two things that you mentioned. One was the water jump, where the fellow got in the water.
yeah.
But whenever we look back at history in D-Day, there were some areas that they intentionally flooded. I think that a lot of paratroopers drowned because they got dropped in these flooded areas that the Germans had intentionally flooded. And when you have all that gear on, you can't take it off quick enough, usually.
Right.
And then you mentioned the nausea, and I was watching a documentary, and the guys that were on the boats coming in, that's one of the things that really, they got seasick because the seas were pretty rough, and you're so sick, and then you kind of jump off and start trying to fight, and you're, trying to get out of the way of all the bullets, and you're nauseated too, and probably a lot of paratroopers got nauseated on the trip over whenever they were making the D-Day invasion. So
Definitely. I always remember there's a vet out in Florida who I've known for about 10 years now. And he landed at Utah Beach, and he always told us he's never looked at another Spam sandwich because they ate Spam sandwiches and then they got on the boat and it was just Spam everywhere. And he can't handle it. He was like, landing was nothing, but just being in the boat with everyone's sandwiches. It was rough.
It was very rough.
It's pretty
you
rough.
wouldn't want to eat Spam again for sure.
No.
How long did you stay on that?
Beth and I were just talking about Spam. That's just crazy how that subject comes up.
Yes. They got pallets of it at Costco in case if anyone's looking for some.
Yeah. No, I don't think most of us have eaten that in a number of years.
Not since
Probably
I was a
by
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Liberty, whenever I was a kid, that was one of the primary staples we had to eat was fried Spam. So
when you don't have a ton of money, that's what you eat.
Delicious.
Yeah. So how long did you stay on that trip?
I was there. Let's see. I flew in a Wednesday and I flew out a Wednesday. So
Okay.
I'm realizing I get so excited thinking about Normandy. I really jump ahead of myself. I need to give a shout out to the jump team. I was with the Round Canopy Parachute team, who is just a phenomenal organization. I jumped with RCPT USA and RCPT France, and then we had a conglomeration of individuals from many different countries. The Dutch jumped with our group, the Belgians, the French, the Americans, the Brits. So it's a phenomenal, really excellent group. C-47 jump, that the plane was brought over from England, I think it was called the Pegasus, and I believe it was a real D-Day bird. So I came in I think on a Wednesday, so that was the 29th or 30th. I don't remember what day it was, but it was a Wednesday to the Wednesday.
The 30th is when you were on the show, I think.
So then,
I
would have flown out the next day, I believe. Yeah. So it's been a long life. So it was just a couple of days, because really the focus was to do the jumps. Because next year, there's no guarantees about next year. Obviously, I'm bringing kids next year, so jumps aren't happening in that regard. So I wanted to just kind of make sure this happened because it's something I've dreamed about for my whole life. And our CPT was amazing. They'll let me jump on at the last minute, brought parachutes for me, and reserves, which is always a positive thing. I have my own reserve over there, which is very exciting. I just kind of want to carry it with me. I would have traveled with it on the plane. It wasn't packed at the time, but my dream is to carry like parachute with me on a plane and deal with people being confused and concerned.
Be ready if you have to jump out of the airplane, right?
Yeah, well, yes. Hopefully not at that high height. So Wednesday to Wednesday, and then we get there, and then the first day it was like debrief. We look at the drop zones, we talk about the winds. So for people who aren't quite familiar with it, civilian jumpers, and it's a little different for the Army because they jump with non-steerable parachutes. Technically ours are non-steerable, they're rounds, but we have toggles. So we can jump, I believe, up to 14 or I think 15 knots is our max, or it's like 13 gusting at 15, something like that. And the winds stayed about 14 to 15 knots most of the week. So you have your debrief, and then the next day that day we load up our parachutes, go up to Cherbourg, and hope for the jump. So that was kind of what it was every day. Was, are we going to jump? Yeah, we're going to jump today. Just the optimism was high. It's extreme optimism. If we could will it to happen, it will. But
Did you jump with some of the people that you jump with here? Because you're with a jump team here.
yes, so I jump with a couple of jump teams, which is really fun because each team has a little bit of a different style. So the one around Canopy is based out of Florida, and they're the ones who I've done a bunch of jumps with over there. And so the USA team went over and joined the European contingent. And that's great because it's like a great big family. I mean, and when you spend hours and hours wearing enormously heavy equipment, sitting out on the field of a tarmac, as one of my jump mates said, we looked like we were sea lions just bathing in the sun. We got a nice like tan on one side of our face from just resting. So it's a very bonding experience for sure. And then the anticipation and the build up and making sure everything's good and everybody landed safely, no problems, besides, landing in the water, which is more hilarious than anything else. And we had Vince Speranza, who recently passed. He was at the drop zone when we all landed, greeting us, which was pretty. Vince didn't jump into Normandy. He was a replacement in the Bulge, but he kind of represents. He's been over there every year for the veterans, and he represents a lot of the last of the World War II airborne vets. Now he's passed, but it's. Even though he wasn't a D-Day vet, he's still landing and having him there greeting us. He knows the experience, and it's spectacular to get a hug from Vince right after you jump out of a plane.
That's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you see some of the vets that you know from United States that were over there? Some roll call vets or anybody?
You know who I ran into? And of all places, it was the Stop Bar. Don Graves.
Don Graves, what was he doing?
He's everywhere. He was passing out. When he was over there, he got a bunch of postcards from with the picture of the site where the paratrooper was caught up on the steeple.
Oh yes.
So he had a bunch of those postcards. He passed them all out yesterday at the Sons of the Flag event. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, that guy gets around.
I think wasn't he was in Ireland a few weeks? Oh my goodness!
Since we got on this podcast, he keeps trying to call me.
Say, hang on, Don. Yeah, he gets around. But it was hilarious. Honestly, it's really cool to have a Pacific Theater veteran represented over in Europe, because a lot of the Europeans, Normandy brings people from all over Europe, and because they want to be there for the anniversary, but they also know veterans are going to be there and they really want to meet the vets. And so for them to meet a veteran who not only is World War II but was in a completely different area of the war, it's a great opportunity for them. And Don gives all the personality anyone could ask for. So I think he had everybody in Normandy wrapped around his finger.
Oh, I'll bet he did.
He's good at that, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is. He's very good at that.
So did you stay with some of your friends while you were there? Is that where you stayed, or?
Yeah, I have I have a lot of friends and adopted family in Normandy, and I actually have a friend who hosts my kids when I bring them to St. Mary Glace. He opened up. He said I texted him last minute. I was like, "Do you have a bunk bed I could borrow?" And sure enough, so I stayed with a friend right in St. Mary Glace, which was great because over the anniversary, it's very difficult to get a room, and then there's a lot of street closures and just hard to get around. So my friend is right off the main square, and it was fantastic. I could just hop in the car and get anywhere I needed. But it was also, there's a lot of activities happening. The Army usually have a setup. They put all the paratroopers there in St. Mary Glace. So there's just a lot of activity, and it was great. But yeah, hooray for friends.
Does the 82nd and the 101st both send a lot of troops over there to jump?
Yes. So the 101st is they're no longer really jumpers, though there are some 101st guys who do jump. So they send a lot of both divisions send significant representatives because they participate in the ceremonies and then the 80-second jumps. So we might have teased some of the 101st guys about being dirty, rotten legs, but they have the opportunity to go through airborne school if they so choose. But the Army sends some pretty significant. I know a few years ago they had 500, 400 active duty guys. This year I think they probably had about 250, 300. It's quite. Normandy is definitely invaded again. And it's neat something special which the people of Normandy do for the troops every year is they have it's like a family night or soldier night, but they each homes, like 50, 60, 70 French homes around the Normandy coast, open up and their residents and have dinner for a couple of soldiers. So they get the opportunity to go into a French family. Most of the French families, some of them don't even speak that great English, but they have food and they have drink, and it's just, you don't really need a lot else. So some of my active duty friends who had that experience, they loved it. It's a real, it's kind of Southern hospitality in a different way. So the Normandy people do wonderful. They do a wonderful job.
I guess the only difference in our troops going over there now is they have to have a passport probably to get around. Whenever they went on June the 6th, they didn't have to have a passport.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing that we don't think about. Right.
Yeah.
Well, some of the guys, I know some of the guys I went overseas with, some of the vets have taken over in the past. When they went back, say for the 70th anniversary or the 67th, they'd never had a passport before. They'd been through Germany and France and Belgium and every single country in Europe that their division went through, but they never had a passport. So it's one of these things we don't think about very often, which is just kind of a amusing part.
So have you had any jumps since you came back?
Yes. I had to take a little break for a little while because it was a little rough on my shoulders, but I did a water jump. I did a couple of jumps in July, and I did a water jump, which is it's a planned water jump, not like my friend in Normandy. This was a planned water jump. No, this was again out in Florida with around Canopy, and up in the St. John River. You have like a flotation device with you under your harness, and then you just jump right into the water, and it's amazing. I think the hazards included electrical wires, a bridge, mako sharks, bull sharks, and alligators. So that was the best landing ever. Just feet into the water. It was gorgeous. So much
with all those hazards, you didn't have Germans with machine guns firing at you, right?
No. No, but it was. I highly recommend a planned water jump. It's just delightful.
I don't think that, probably Mary too, I don't think either one of us want to have a planned water jump or a jump at all.
No, not out of a perfectly good airplane. Now that sucker's going down.
Okay. How do you know it's a perfectly good? I keep reading things about plane malfunctions and crashes and all this stuff. So I'm good. I'm good having a parachute when I get on a plane.
I think driving, where I need to go is really a pretty good idea. I'll just drive.
Yeah.
My family has unanimously decided I'm better steering a parachute than I am driving a car. So we're working on that.
You were talking about airplane crashes, and the other day that F-35 crashed. The pilot ejected in South Carolina, and they couldn't find out where the airplane is.
I know.
$150 million airplane, and they had to go look for it. It looks like they'd have all kinds of sensors and everything else to say, hey, here's the airplane. So
yeah,
technology.
my husband when he was working at the 35 plant doing QA on the 35, I asked him that very question. I said, shouldn't there be something on there that told him where the plane was? And he said, it depends on what happened in the crash. Yeah, find my plane. But he said it depends on what happened in the crash. Stuff might have gotten, destroyed, and that might have caused it not to be able to to use whatever was on it. So
It's
interesting.
still,
Yeah,
it's
but they finally found it. So they found it yesterday. I
was
think
it
That's
he
good.
did
obliterated?
eject early yesterday, or was it the day before? I can't remember which it was. But yeah, you'd have thought they'd have found it immediately, but no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever I was working at Lockheed, I tried to get them to put one of those devices on the ejection seat. So, the pilot might have one, but, if something happened to him, at least they could locate the ejection seat and hopefully he'd be close to it.
Yeah.
But they said, oh, it had too much weight, we'd have to redesign it. So,
Yeah. So what happens an ejection seat? It's always fascinated me because I feel like it would hurt your back tremendously. What happens if the ejection seat fails? Obviously you're cooked, but I mean, does it have a reserve on it? Does it have a reserve
I don't
parachute or
know.
something?
I don't know.
Not enough time?
But I
Horrible.
don't know if you saw that. It was probably 6 or 8 months ago, wasn't it, Mary, where that F-35 had come down for a landing. It hit kind of hard, and then it went nose down and spun around, and then the pilot ejected. I mean, he was on the ground and ejected, and you think, man, he didn't get hurt bad, but I think he did get injured because that's not a very high.
Yeah,
He,
apparently in the 35, when it gets to a certain point, it will auto eject the pilot.
yeah,
Oh.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing aircraft anyway. But boy, it's expensive, and that was a Marine 35 that went down. So
yeah.
yeah, Don better go have a conversation with them folks about their training, I guess.
Yeah, because Don can fly.
Yeah, Don absolutely does not like to fly. He's been
Really?
offered, he has been, and he'll fly, to go places, but he has been offered to go up in, little biplanes and all kinds of things. And he's like, nah, I'm good. I
That
don't
is
need
so
to
funny.
do that. Yeah, he's a ground guy.
So we can't strap a chute on like we did to Jerry and
I
everyone
don't think
else.
he would enjoy it. No,
Not
Yeah.
even if we egged him on a little bit. Okay.
I
Wow.
don't think so. I
I'm
don't think so.
surprised. Don. He has a spot of fear in him.
Yeah.
So, what have you been doing this summer? You've had a lot of activities going on, getting ready for another trip in
Yes.
October.
Yes, so in 3 weeks now, I think. It's coming up really, really fast. I have my next Bridge to History program. And yes, it's literally 5 minutes down the road. I've got 7 kids. I've got 6 boys and 1 girl. So last year I had 3 girls and 4 boys. There's a little bit more balance. This year it's going to be 1. So thankfully Genevieve is coming with her brother, so she's not going to be quite the she probably won't be so terrifying. But I'm very excited. They're all the boys are 12 years old. They're all very gung-ho. They are into the airborne. They have been collecting militaria their whole lives. And people, their whole long lives. I love it. And people, the more people that hear about the kids individually, they say, oh, well, so one of the kids I'm bringing, Ben, from Pennsylvania, he's really cool. And he's been collecting. He's built in his it's not his backyard, but right down the road, he's built an entire bunker system with the American sector, the German sector, everything. But he's been doing news articles and talking to the Rotary Club and the Lions Club. And so folks call up his mom and say, hey, I've got my dad's uniform from World War II or from Vietnam. Can I give it to Ben? Will he take care and protect it? So that's a really special aspect to see, is people seeing these kids and going, okay, I have this stuff I don't know what to do with, but I don't want to send it to a museum because I don't want it to be boxed up, but I can't get rid of it. And then they see here's this enthusiastic young man who can put it to use. He's, build his own private museum and display it and show it and care for it. So not just Ben, but all kids. One of my kids, Nathaniel, who's from California, went on local news and it went national, got picked up by Fox, and they talked about it on the Five, which was a really fun surprise. I was
I
really,
saw that.
That's cool.
it was really, it was, I was really happy for Nathaniel because 12 is such, I mean, we've talked about this before on May. 12, the age group, like 9, 10, 11, 12, it's a very important age for the kids because they're either encouraged in their passions or they're told you're nerds, you're silly, whatever, and then that crushes it. And I've seen the outcome of what happens with crushed passion. You know, you're 70, 80, 90 years old and you have your hobby interest, but you never did anything with it and you wish you had. And you're like, man, I used to be into history, but I never did anything with my life. And so it just kind of went away. Or you encourage it and then they become history teachers or tour guides or professors or anything or things like that. So I was really, really proud of Nathaniel because I know it's very nerve-wracking to go on the news to talk to a reporter, and the fact that he got the warm response like that, it was really, really affirming for him. So those are just, and Nathaniel's actually he has a really, really cool background because, and they didn't have time to talk about this in the clip, but on his, he has two of his grandparents. One was Chinese American and served in the Navy in World War II. And his other grandfather was Japanese American and was in an internment camp in World War II. So you have these two grandparents who have completely different experiences. And the internment camps, I mean, you're probably quite familiar with them, but it's a really, really awful part of our history in that time period because a lot of us, we look at, World War II Americans were liberating concentration camps, were heroes, or rescuing people. But at the same time, we're also saying, because you look like this culture or because you have this culture in your blood, we're going to put you in a camp. And it's going to be horrible for you, but we're scared. Fear does a lot of really, really dark things to people. And we were so afraid, we just locked up all the Japanese Americans and said, yeah, you can't, you're going to sit this one out. So not proud of that. It's not something we should be proud of, but we also have to educate it. So I think I think Nathaniel has a really special opportunity to educate people because he has these two grandfathers with such vastly different experiences. One of my dearest vet friends was in an internment camp at the beginning of the war, and then he joined the 442nd, which was the Japanese American unit, which was formed, and then he transferred to the 101st Airborne Division. And he's told me stuff from being in the internment camp, which is it's really hard to hear. So I'm going to hopefully connect them. But anyways, each of the kids have really unique, special stories. And they've been studying so hard the last couple of months. They've been reading and watching books. And now they're preparing things for the school kids they're going to meet in France. So it's going to be a really, really wonderful program.
Yeah, you've had several of your ambassadors, the children that have been before, on different news programs locally in their areas. I've seen several clips from different areas around the country where your ambassadors are getting a lot of publicity for being in part of Bridge to History. So that's good publicity.
It is, and I mean, there's always the element of getting your 15 minutes of fame, which, take that or leave that for whatever. But the positive response, the reason I tell the kids, hey, reach out to your local news. It's not be famous. It's share what you know, make other people excited, inspire other people. And the response from little kids going on and talking to adults on TV isn't they're trying to get attention. It's, hey, this is something I'm really excited about. Let me tell you about it. And then the adults look at it and go, wow, I want to be that kid. I wish I was 12 years old again. And I can't be, so let me find ways to help them. So I'm really proud of each of the kids for all the work they've done after the program. Last year, students were coming up on the 1-year anniversary for my 2022 class. And so I've been texting the kids and talking to them, and I'm really, really proud of them to see how much they've grown and how they're continuing to study and work really hard on this.
I know I can speak for myself, and I'm sure Mary feels the same way. But we're really, really proud of you because we've seen you grow from just a teenager coming to roll call and being with the World War II vets and the other veterans to being able to put together a program that is going to help the future generations know the true history of World War II. So tell us how all that evolved for and became first Operation Meatball. That's kind of the umbrella organization, and then Bridge to History. How did all that evolve?
Okay, so I don't want to be too. I know we talked about OM Operation Meatball a little bit in May. So that was a combination of just um, growing up in a very history oriented family and wanting to do something with my sisters and veterans, and it that snowballed. And so for the last 9 years, 9.5 years, it was very much focused on World War II veterans and life enrichment. And then last year, so Bridge to History came about because last year we were in that, it was a big transition year. We are like, okay, it's been at the time it was 8 years. Most of my vets are died. What have died? What do we do? Because I do things with Vietnam vets and Korean War and even more recent wars. But how do we take everything I've learned my entire life and put it to use? So it's not just a decade squared off with nothing, and it closed. How can I continue to perpetuate this? And I think it was June 7 of last year, driving around. I was in Normandy, and I was with my friend he's my also the guide for the children, Willem, who, if anyone's going to Normandy, let me look up Willem Brom, and I can send you all the information because he's an incredible tour guide. He's from the Netherlands, and I've known him almost my whole life. Um, I was talking to him yesterday, and I was like, just so you know, hey Wim, I met you when I was 14, and I'm about to be 27. How does that make you feel? So I was with Willem, and he was just showing me and some of my family different areas in Normandy that I'd never seen. Every year you find new things you've never been to before. We're driving along the road, and there's these enormous pictures of senior and elderly French people holding these. In the pictures, they're holding a picture of children's drawings, and it's just coded down the whole. I mean, these are enormous portraits, but it's just all the way down this roadway. And he said, "Willem, tell us about this." So he pulled up to this house, and he's telling us about it. And then this man, I don't remember what his occupation was. Was it plumbing or engineering? And if Bernard is listening, I apologize if I gave you the wrong job. Well, he's on a work job, but he's also the mayor of this town. And he starts telling us about these pictures. And the story is, it's the story of the Judel children. So in World War II, one of our paratroopers landed in the town of Saint Côme de Mont, and the townspeople came and they took care of him. And I can't remember if he was wounded or what the situation was, but they took care of him and sent him on his way. Well, it just so happened his mom, she was a Jewish woman who'd been living in Paris most of her life, an American, but in Paris. When the war starts to creep up in about 37, 38, she goes home to America. So when she finds out that this town had basically saved her son's life, she says, I'm so grateful, that she sponsors the town for the next 20 years. And she takes care of the kids' education, in their food and their clothing. And she sends so much money, but not just the practical side. She takes the children to Paris on 4-day weekends because she wants them to know there's more outside of your world than the town of Saint Côme de Mont and Normandy. There's a huge world, and I want to give you the experience so that you can learn and see this firsthand. So the children wrote her Christmas letters to thank her for this every year, and that lasted 20 years till she died in the 60s. And it just transformed all of these people. So I'm hearing this story, and my mother, who's my business partner, she's been my business partner for 8 years. We kind of look at each other and we have this electrical shock at the same time. And we go, I know what we need to do. We need to start bringing kids to Normandy so they can meet these children, meet the Judel children, and they can have the experiences I had as a kid, going to the battlefields and talking to the veterans. And it all made sense. So that's where Bridge to History came from. And so last year when I brought the kids over, they got to meet the Judel children, who are now some of them are in their 70s because they were born right after, or some of them are in their 80s, and they got to talk to them firsthand and hear what it was like growing up in a war, or the immediate aftermath of a war, and what it's like, because a lot of people forget when the war is over, all these townspeople who've been bombarded for years and years, they now have to start new. And some of these kids, they've been born into war, so they know nothing else. Like over in Ukraine right now, all the kids who are being born in these bomb shelters, that's all they know. They're literally being born as they're being shelled. So if that, hopefully, if there's peace someday, they're going to have to learn, what is it like to be normal again? What is it like to be little children and to have a beautiful childhood? So my 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds got to talk to these 75, 80-year-olds and hear about that. And it was a really, really beautiful circle to meet the inspiration for the program, and then have the kids talk to them and learn about it. So that's where that's actually like the birth moment of Bridge to History, June 7 last year. And then it kind of exploded really fast. It was.
That is very cool.
And you start in London, correct? Or
Yes.
England?
Yes.
And you go to Churchill's War Room?
Yes. So I really want to give them, I started them in London because so much of the war for us surrounded London. I mean, we had our bases out of there, but the British, they were our strongest allies. And I want them to get a really good grasp on not just Churchill, but what were the English like in World War II? Resilience, one of my favorite words. I love that photo. Those are two of my students I brought to Fort Bragg in May. Amazing kids. So I want the kids to learn about resilience, because that's something we don't think about a lot. It's not a word we use a lot, but it's, how can you be sturdy in the midst of storms and hurricanes when your life is falling apart? How can you just hold on a little bit longer, hold on to the sliver of hope? Because without hope, there's not a lot going for you. And the British really exemplified hope. So that's where we start out. And then I bring them to what's called the Royal Chelsea Hospital, which a lot of Americans aren't familiar with it. It's kind of one of my favorite parts of the trip. It's an Army veterans home, which was started by, I think, Charles II. It's a beautiful home. But we know about the pensioners, the Chelsea pensioners, because they wear the long scarlet cloaks and they're in the parades and they're kind of larger than life characters in British publicity. But the kids get a one-on-one experience with the pensioners where they tour the hall, but they come and join us for dinner. And these are Army veterans who've served everywhere from World War II to the Ireland in the 70s and, more recent wars. So it's a kind of a whole spectrum, but it's a lot of English culture, but also a lot of history for the kids to kind of be immersed immediately. And then we take the overnight ferry to Normandy, and that's kind of when D-Day experience starts. Hopefully with no spam sandwiches. So we had no motion sickness problems with the kids last time. With the parents, I'm usually like, take something if you think you're going to be sick, but the kids are gung-ho. One of the kids last time, Winston, actually, who's in that photo, I have a video of him saying this. It was so funny. We're on the ferry. We're just leaving Portsmouth, and the kids are all shouting goodbye. And Winston turns to me and he goes, I just came here for the history, but this is awesome. And I was like, I love that. That's the type of nerd I appreciate. So then they get sunrise on Sword Beach, which is just incredible because the sun is literally coming up over the horizon, and you're on the beach where our allies landed, and then after that, it's just incredibly fast-paced. Hold onto your hats, stand in front of a fire hydrant with your mouth open and try and get everything in.
Because you take them to all 5 beaches? Is that correct?
All 5. Gold, Sword, Juneau, Omaha, and Utah. A couple of British cemeteries, the American cemetery. We have a special treat, possibly, cemetery for this year, so if it goes through, I'll tell you all after the fact. And then the German cemetery, which is I think it's really important to take the kids there. You respect. I think you have respect for humanity and our enemy. And what is it like? What I talk about to the kids is, what is it like to win? We know what it's like to win. What is it like to lose? And there's consequences for that. So that was a really, really special part last year for the kids, was the German cemetery. And then some veterans over there, and then the schools, which is a wonderful part. The kids get to meet the kids in the school, have lunch with them, learn about what it's like to be a child in Normandy. They're just the same. They just, slightly more organized when it comes to cafeteria and recycling. They've got that down pat, but just a real in-depth cultural experience with the kids. And then one day where we take them in a couple of Dodges and trucks, World War II trucks, and just drive. We call that Airborne Day. We just drive all over the countryside, visiting the different locations where the airborne went through, and it's magnificent. Yeah.
And how do people find out about Bridge to History, and what are the qualifications for children to go?
Yes. So bridgetohistory.com. The 2 is a number 2. And qualifications, you have to be between 9 and 12. I've told people, and we've gotten some applications in. If you're a little bit higher, if you're 13 or 14, I say send the application in anyways, because sometimes we have last minute deferrals and we have a space, and I want to incorporate kids. My focus is the 9 to 12-year-olds or 8 to 12-year-olds, but we'll make allowances if there's someone who's really exceptional and we have the opportunity to bring them. So to apply, we have an application process where you fill out a form. You got to write a 2 or 3 page essay on who you are, why you love history, and why we should bring you. And then you've got to do a little video. So the essay and the video is because this isn't a field trip. This is like a mentorship. So I want kids who are really invested, who they're dragging their parents along, not vice versa. And I want to know that they can at least work on articulating their thoughts onto paper or to camera, because they're going to be representing their generation. They're learning history. They're being given this experience, and then they're expected to share that with others. So if you're shy, we'll help you with it. We're not going to force shy kids to do speeches, nothing like that. But we want to encourage passing that on. So fill out that application. Send in the essay and the video, get your passport in order, and then you'll hear back from us. And
so these are children from all across the United States that
yes,
you send in applications and have to go with a guardian, because you aren't going to take 7 or 8 kids with you
because of
yourself.
the age group. They need to come, and it's usually a parent. And I think that's a big part of the program, which we don't really talk about or even think about that much. But having them come along with their parent, it helps. The parent can help translate the experience afterwards with the kid. It means the child has someone who they're very close with that they can continue to learn and understand, because not all the concepts are going to hit home immediately. Some of them have to sit and ruminate. And then also this is a great bonding experience. Last year, one of the dads who he brought 2 of the brother sister, he was an Army veteran, 20 years in the service, and a surprise, which none of us expected, but a beautiful surprise that came out of that was, through the eyes of D-Day and the history and the veterans, his 2 children suddenly were able to connect with his own story. Different war, completely different war, but suddenly things are in context for them, and they saw their dad through new light that they'd never really understood before. And he's thinking and processing his own experience through the D-Day story. I think sometimes you need a third-party arm distance, I don't know if it's a person or experience, to kind of process things, because it's disconnected from you enough, but it's relatable. And so through Normandy, he and his kids really connected in a special way because of that. So Yeah, you have to. So I like that. I encourage a parent. One of my kids this year, or two of them, their grandfather's bringing them. So that's pretty special. Um, and it's a scholarship program, which means it's free for the student and the parent, because I really want to reach out to people who probably it's just not really going to be happening. People don't bring little kids to Normandy. People are overseas to France because they're like, they're too young to understand. But I think it's really important. I think you travel with your kids as much as you can. So that's why I have a scholarship program. The kids have to raise a nominal amount because that's part of the experience. It gets you talking. It gets you out there. You get some skin in the game, but it's overall, it's not an expense to the student. So that's something I really want to maintain and keep as long as I can, which means if you have a business or a company who wants to partner with us, we are always looking for that, people who are interested in the program, so that we can keep it a scholarship program for the kids and bring lots of them over to Normandy.
And there's probably a lot of people that would just like to donate too, to help these children learn about history and to support the Bridge to History, because there's a lot of probably people my age whose parents fought in World War II that might want to keep that history alive that their fathers and mothers made in World War II. So on your website, Bridge to History, you have a donation button, and there's
Yes.
provisions there to donate. And you also can go to different civic organizations and talk too, can't you? I mean, you do that
Yes.
too.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to different groups, and honestly, I can bring the kids out too to talk to the groups. Well, if they're generally local, because I think it's neat. I mean, I can talk ad nauseum about all this stuff because I love it, and it's like it's my passion. But it's also neat to bring the students out periodically so they can see, not only it's not just something I'm excited about, it actually works. The students actually learn and do really well with it. So yes. And if someone wants to donate and you have a family who served in the military who you'd like to remember, or you just want to let us know, write a little note with their name and their service information. One of the ladies who donated to my student Nathaniel this trip, she mentioned that her dad had been in Normandy. So I had her send me his information and his photo, and we're going to bring his photo over there on the program, just kind of as in memoriam of him. So any way that we can connect with their history and putting a face to the kids, say, hey, this here's a man who served here, and his daughter wants to help inspire you to continue this, so she helped contribute to your trip. So
It's not just an investment that a donor is making to a child, but it's an investment the donor is making to preserve history. And
yes.
even like somebody whose parents or grandparents or relatives fought at Normandy, a way to preserve their legacy and to remember them. So
Yes,
it's,
you
it's
invest
exciting.
in the kids, and the kids will invest back in your community and your country.
And that's
So
one thing that by becoming an ambassador, that they're going out and telling others what they've learned about that part of history. Because I don't know how much World War II history is taught in our schools today, but
Very little.
it may be a paragraph or, a page, I don't know, but to hear it from a child, especially going back to their school and talking about it, that's very important. So
yes, I can't wait to see what this new class of students does when they return, because they've been so motivated before the trip. I think they're gonna fly when they get home. They're
and
gonna really
and
fly.
the classes are only 6 to 7 children, correct?
Yes, 9 is our cap number. And this time, so it's 7, 7 to 9 kids. I'm trying to keep it in that number range, because then it's still small and intimate, and you get the one-on-one, and no one's getting lost in the crowd. I mean, no one's going to get lost in the crowd if it's more. We're all crammed into the same house and bus and everything. But I want to keep it as 7 to 9 kids, because then everybody everybody has an opportunity to study something particular. If there's a location they've always wanted to see, or a memorial or something like that, then I can help steer in that direction. So, and it's a good size number. I mean, it's like I have 7 siblings, so it's basically just like the size family I grew up in. And maybe that's why I'm like 7 to 9 kids, because I'm like, I can work with that.
And
I can work with it.
Your mother goes with you on these trips?
Yes, she I say that she's my patron saint and secretary. She, on my phone, actually, she's written down as patron saint, because she does terrific work organizing this with me, and just works very, very hard at the same time as managing her own household and educating the last siblings who are still at home and all this stuff. So, yes, mother is a treat.
What are the dates of your next trip in October?
The kids fly out on October 10, and we'll be over there till the 19th. We fly home on the 19th. Yes.
Okay. And so any donations that are made today or in the future will go toward that trip and other trips you have planned. So
yeah, we run a really tight budget. We're very frugal. I've been very grateful to have a lot of people give us discounted offers so that the program can happen, but it's still an overseas trip. So yes, anything anyone wants to donate up to the program, and even after, everything goes to the kids. This is a volunteer program, so it all goes to organizing all the aspects of the trip to make sure they have the most fulfilled and full experience. So yes,
we're proud of you, and you are really investing in the future of these children and continuing history for a lot of people. So, we're just, I know Mary and I are both proud of you, and all your friends at Roll Call are extremely proud of you, and we love you, your family, and we're always excited whenever you come to Roll Call, and whenever you bring Faith with you to sing, and we'll just eat that up, don't we, Mary?
Oh, we do. We love you guys. You're, I when I emailed your dad about looking at our bylaws, one of the things I said was, what an incredible young woman that you are. And what you're doing is going to make a difference, because they're not teaching. Rick and I both have grandchildren, and when you ask them questions about what are you learning in history, they're, it's so little, and we have to make sure that they learn and they can share it, because if we don't, it's just going to die, and we can look at the results of what's happened in our world, right? Because people don't understand that history from the past. And I think that we have to get back to paying attention to our past and our history. And it, like you said, it's not all pretty. But
no, it's not. But
the good and the bad. We can't just talk about what we like. We got to talk about all of it.
Right, and it's like it's like a family dynamic. It's like everything. It's the whole kitchen sink, but it's good. One of I know we're wrapped up on time, but one of the lines which Jason, one of the dads, told us at the cemetery last year, which is just, it stuck with me, and I'd heard it before, but ever since then I always associate it now with Normandy. When we were at the cemetery, he said that there's this line that every man dies twice. The first time is when his soul leaves his body, and the second time is the last time his name is spoken by someone else. And I think about that a lot, because that's what I want to do with these kids, with the soldiers who died in Normandy, with the veterans who survived, and then the history too. History dies twice, when it's past, and then the last time we talk about it. So the goal is to continue to have them talk about it, have it constantly on their lips, constantly being spoken. And Roll Call is my family, and I love y'all so much, and y'all have done so much to keep that going on. I mean, it's changed. Roll Call's changed Fort Worth. Fort Worth is a different place now because of what y'all have done with the veteran community in the best way.
You're so
Are you going to be at Roll Call?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
She
I am.
RSVP'd. She better be.
I did. I'm getting a lot better at the RSVPs.
Is Faith going to be
Yes.
there? Will Faith be with you?
I don't. I will ask her. I don't think so. She works. She usually has gigs on Friday, so I don't think she
Okay.
will. But I'll see if I can wrestle her out.
Wrestler.
Wrestle her out. Well, we're just so proud of you and the impact you're having on children. It's just phenomenal that you and your family have put this together, and you're going to make a difference in history and a difference in a lot of people's lives. And we're just so honored to have you on our podcast again. 'Cause
What a treat! Thank you.
a lot of people, still talk about the last time you were on. So that was a very popular podcast.
Yeah.
I can gab.
Well, Mary, we've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we do.
Roll call this week.
This week. So don't get confused. People get confused because they always go, it's the last Friday. No, it's the fourth Friday. And sometimes that means it's not the last Friday. So that's why I keep trying to send that message out. It is this Friday, the 22nd. The RSVP link is closed now. So if there's somebody out there that desperately wants to go and did not get it done in time, they'll have to directly info@roll-call.org to see if we can slide them in at all with cancellations. But we've got that coming up. And
We've got a good speaker too.
We do.
Our speaker, we had him on the podcast just a few weeks ago. So
Yeah, John Ewell, and a great story there. And then we've got, Don Graves will be singing God Bless America to a national audience on Sunday at 2:20 in the afternoon at the race at the Texas Motor Speedway, at the NASCAR race. So he'll be on TV. So you're looking for it. It's going to be 2:26. So make sure you get on the Motor Speedway, or better yet, buy some tickets. They have military discounts. Come out to the Speedway and be there in person for Don, singing God Bless America. And
That's
so we've
Sunday?
got that. That's Sunday. John Wilhite, another of our veterans, he turned 100 in August. John was in Korea, World War II, and Vietnam, and was qualified on 47 different aircraft. We keep trying to get him on the show if his schedule would work. But he's going to be honored by the Rangers on Saturday night. They don't ever really televise that, but Rangers and Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is one of our fabulous sponsors, and they're going to recognize John at that game. So that's going to be pretty cool. We've just got a lot of stuff going on, and then I'm sure Rick will talk about the clay shoot.
yeah, we've got the clay shoot coming up October the 15th at Defenders Outdoors. We really need sponsors, of course, but we need clay shooters. So if you're a clay shooter, come and support the veterans, and you can go to roll-call.org, and there's a place there that has more information, a place you can sign up for the clay shoot. We're excited about that. Mary and I and Don were at the clay shoot last week with Sheriff Bill Wayborn, and those are always fun.
Yeah, Don definitely had fun, except when he felt like Rick was going to dump him off the golf cart. So he was on the back of the golf cart, and he was like, holy cow. He's like trying to get Rick to slow down. He's like he had his foot up on the little rail trying to hold himself, and it was pretty funny.
But he didn't get nauseated and throw up, so.
No, he didn't, and he didn't eat any Spam either, but but it was great because he got to see a lot of folks, and we got to hear some really great speakers, and it was a really great time. So, and if you're a shooter, come out, sign up. We'd love to have more shooters. If you just want to come out, we've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be auctioning off. And so we've got a lot of really neat stuff, and you don't have to shoot and be a part of that. You can come out, and if you want to eat, we're going to have some food trucks out there you can get some food from. But come out for the drawings and for the auction. You can participate in those without signing up as a team. But what we really want is some shooters. We want to make it a lot of fun, and we are our first clay shoot, our first time trying this. And they do a great job at Defender Outdoors. So please come out and sign up to be a shooter.
And there's a lot of other things going on too. Light Up to Live. They've got golf tournament, clay shoot the week before our clay shoot. And then Freedom Mobility, we have a golf tournament in November, and I'll be giving you a lot more information about that. And of course, the Skyball is coming in November, and that's always an exciting time to go to the Skyball. So a lot of things happening, and just follow us on Roll Call at roll-call.org, or you can check out our Facebook page too. So, Liberty, thank you so much for being here this week, and we look forward to having you on again. I'd really like to have your mom on and have Liberty on and meet Honor and have him on, because
Yes.
kind of have a little family affair there.
That'd be so fun.
And kind of learn the dynamics of having a large family and doing all the things that your parents have done to instill this love of history for you all. So
That would be awesome. Thank you so much for having me on again. This is y'all are just very fun and enjoyable to do this with.
Mary, you have anything else we need to talk about?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining Hometown Heroes, and we'll be back again next week with another special guest. And just remember about the Bridge to History. And you can go to, we've got a ticker along the bottom that's been playing with the Bridge to History and Operation Meatball website. So thank you all for joining Hometown Heroes, and we'll see you next week.